Welcome to Unlearning, where we go behind the curtain for an insider's perspective on the theater industry, break down the buzzworthy conversations on social media, and challenge the stigmas that hold us back. I'm Veronica Stern, and together, we're unlearning and redefining what it means to thrive in the business. Now, it's time to rewrite the script. Hello, wonderful people of the world, and welcome to Unlearning. I'm your host, Veronica Stern, and this is a podcast all about Broadway. If this is your first time here, yay, I'm so happy to have you. If you're a return listener, welcome back. We have a really exciting show in store for you today. My friend Carlyn Barenholtz, who has done several cruise ship contracts, was kind enough to come onto the show to talk about her experience on those ships, what it's like, the day in the life, how you get there to be a cruise ship performer. And so I'm really excited to sit down with her because I know absolutely nothing about cruise ships, but it's such an integral part of being a performer and the entertainment industry and the musical theater business. So I think that it's a really great conversation and I hope that you enjoy it. But before we do that, I had to come on the mic because major news dropped this week. Yes, actually today. If you're not familiar with Variety, they are a magazine news publication outlet that does, entertainment and celebrities and pop culture. Every year around award season, around Oscars, Grammys, Golden Globes, they do something called Actors on Actors. And it's where they sit down to super high profile people and they just have them talk to each other and they have them ask questions to each other. And it's all about being an actor and being in the business and what it's like. And they have some really, really interesting ones that I personally love. I think 2 or 3 years ago, they did Rachel Zegler and Chloe Bailey when they were both having their West Side Story, Little Mermaid moments. Another one that I really, really enjoyed was Kieran Culkin and Coleman Domingo. That was a really fun one as well. A few weeks back, my friend Kate Coffey was on the podcast. You can listen to that episode after this one. She had a great idea. She said, why doesn't Variety do Actors on Actors, but for Broadway people? And I was like, that's an incredible idea. Why don't they do Audra McDonald, Nicole Scherzinger? I would eat that right up. Cut to today. Actors on Actors at 11 a.m. dropped Actors on Actors Broadway. They are releasing 5 episodes all this week, and this is the lineup. I'm going to put it right here, right? Maybe here. George Clooney and Patti LuPone, Audra McDonald and Jake Gyllenhaal, Sarah Snook and Kieran Culkin, Nicole Scherzinger and Jonathan Groff, Cole Escola and Darren Criss. Seriously, I am so excited for this. I don't have words. This is the greatest day ever. Okay, so let me break this down really quick for you guys. While we are not getting Audra and Nicole talking together, we are getting George Clooney and Patti LuPone talking together. What in the world is that going to look like? I am so excited and I am so seated. I am sure somebody at Variety tried their hardest to get Patti LuPone and Nicole Scherzinger in the room together, but it just didn't happen. And you know what? It is okay. I will take Nicole Scherzinger and Jonathan Groff. What a funny little pairing that is. I'm genuinely so curious, what their conversation is going to be like. That one is on Friday, I think. Now, I am a Swiftie, so, the Jake Gyllenhaal of it all is very interesting, but he is a lover of theater and this craft, so I'm very excited to see him sit down with Audra McDonald so they can talk about Othello and Gypsy and all that good stuff. So that's my tea on Actors. Did Variety listen to my podcast, or at least the clip? Maybe. And honestly, Variety, if you want to work together, let me know. I'm so excited for Actors on Actors Broadway edition, but I'm also so excited for my episode with Carlyn. I hope that you enjoy it. Please be sure to subscribe, follow, rate, review, all of the good things so we can keep bringing you all of these episodes of Unlearning. Without further ado, here is Carlyn. I am so excited to talk to you today. First of all, it's been so long.
Literally a very long time.
Very long time. Like,
Yeah.
I literally remember you texting me and you were like, hey, I'm auditioning for CCM. And I was like, girl, don't do it.
Literally. Yeah, I think our last text exchange was, you were like, do you watch this show because you look like this actor? And then I was like, hey, I'm coming over for the podcast. Like, that is our...
Yeah. Wait, what show?
I don't know.
Oh my God.
My phone's in a corner.
No, it's
You were
totally
like, do you
fine.
watch this? And I was like, I don't. And you were like, well, you look exactly like this lady. And then this is our most recent text exchange about this since like 2021.
Well, it's funny because you reached out and you were like, love the podcast. I was like, thanks. And then you were like, what if you did an episode about cruise ships? And I was
Yeah.
like, whoa, I have never thought about that because I distinctly remember my agent, like right when I graduated from college, sent me an audition for a cruise ship.
Yeah.
And I was like, please do not ever send me this again. I do not want to go on a cruise ship. And
Sure.
that was the last time I ever thought about it.
And then I was in your DMs.
Yeah, and then you were my DMs. But I can't wait to talk to you about this because this is a world I know nothing about. And it is so interesting. And it's also the part of the industry that I think is not talked about a lot, even though it's where
Yeah.
a lot of people get their start.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like it's so interesting because what I've experienced when people are like, oh, you worked on a boat, is people either being like, I desperately want to do that, or like, there's no way in hell you could ever catch me doing that. I think people are so scarred by Titanic. They think that's just like what it's like.
Really? That's so funny.
So many people are like, but boat go down. And I'm like, no.
That's not the reason why I don't want to ever go on a cruise ship. I'm more so the reason is like the way that I feel like you're just totally removed from the world.
And that is very much a part of it.
It gives
as
me
well.
so much anxiety.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to get into it with
Yeah.
you. Okay. So you were on, first of all, you went to BOCO, right?
Yes, I did.
Okay, work. Is that
Yeah.
like, is it part of the culture there, like cruise ships and like talking about that in your curriculum? Because it wasn't for us.
Yeah, not really. More like word of mouth-y stuff. Like our school's really, I mean, you get it. Like
Yeah.
our school's very small. And so I feel like when you're close with the alum and through like, we have a musical theater big little system.
Yeah.
And like eventually you're like, oh, this person's great grandbig is now working on like Royal or Disney or
Yeah.
whatever. Like you just find out from tracking them on like Instagram.
Right.
And
And so it's
life.
just something you knew about.
Yeah, it was just something that was like very much in my like periphery for a while, and I'm fairly sure some cruise lines would like audition on our campus, like
Yes,
similar
yeah.
with like summer stocks. They would like
Sure.
come and post up in our basement and be like, now dance. But yeah, I never auditioned at school for boats, and that was sort of a thing I did once I moved to this city.
So you told me that you were on 2 different ships
I was indeed.
for a total of like 18 months.
Yeah, so I did the Disney Wish, which was not originally. The Treasure is the most recent boat that just dropped.
New boat just dropped.
New boat dropped. And then before that, it was the Wish. So at the time that I booked the Wish, it was the newest boat on the fleet. And then immediately after that, I had 1 week at home to like put my life in boxes and be like, pet my cat on the head and be like, it's going to be okay. And then run out and do the second oldest boat on our fleet, which is the Disney Wonder. And the itineraries were like very, very different. So that was really cool. I felt like I got the spectrum of
So
Disney.
did you do a proper show when you were on the boat, or was it like the review show?
Sure. So my second contract, I was a main stage performer. So I did get to do three proscenium style shows.
Yeah.
One of them was Frozen. So
Oh, fun.
as you know it, but like truncated. It's very much like the movie. We don't do like Monster or any of the songs that were written for Broadway, but it's very much like the movie adapted for the stage, which is super cool. The quick changes in that are a beast because it's like bop, 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 number to number. And then my first contract, I did something called the Shipboard Performer. And that's basically like immersive theater. So we're on a main stage contract, but you're playing characters that are like originally written for the boat. They're like brand new and they're kind of just like delightful jump scares. Like we kind of just like show up out of nowhere and like do improv and heckle people, and it's kind of awesome. I got to walk around in like a big poofy dress and talk in a British accent and hang out with children, and it was awesome.
Okay, so I feel like we should like maybe start at the very beginning.
Sure.
Like I need like cruise ship 101 for dummies.
Sure.
I've never been on a cruise.
Yeah.
I can only imagine like what it's like as like a passenger.
Yeah.
But the idea that like you're in these state-of-the-art theaters, like I've seen videos and pictures. They look pretty amazing.
They're gorgeous, yeah.
But you still feel like the elements of like a boat rocking back and forth or whatever.
So our I'm fairly sure this is true of all the boats. And listen, if there's like Disney Cruise Line people out there, don't yell at me if I'm wrong. But most of our theaters are built in like the forward of the ship. So that's like your most stable part of the boat is anywhere like midship and like in the mid levels.
Yeah.
If you're all the way forward or all the way aft, you can feel, which is back, you can feel the rocking a lot more. And so on the Wish, which is like huge, like it is giving multiple football fields in length, like size.
Really?
So when you're sitting in the theater on the Wish, you really don't feel the rocking that badly, versus on the Wonder, which is a way smaller boat, you can feel it pretty extremely if the waves are bad.
And is that something that they prepare you for, or is it just something you can't really prepare unless like you're just doing it?
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of like a trial by fire situation. Like you live on a boat for long enough, you'll eventually like stop getting seasick and all of that stuff. But like I personally, like, I get very car sick, but seasick is not really a thing I experience
That's
a
so
ton,
wild.
which is really interesting.
Yeah.
I also think like when your body's like, this is what it is for like the next few months, like you kind of just adjust pretty fast. But yeah, it's interesting. And obviously like the thing that feels great about working in this circumstance, especially with this company, is like you feel very safe because our tech is really advanced. Like they support their actors in every way possible. There's a lot of flying that happens in our shows, but like flying while the boat is rocking isn't awful because our tech department is incredible and they do tons of checks and everything feels very, very safe. We have like really awesome tech teams, and they're very cool about like stopping the show if anything feels unsafe. They're not afraid to call a show stop.
Oh, love that.
Yeah.
All right, I want to know what like a typical day in the life of a performer on a cruise ship is.
It depends on the itinerary. So
What do you mean by itinerary?
So basically my first contract, I was ported in Port Canaveral, Florida, and we would go from Nassau, Bahamas, to our Disney's private island, Castaway Cay, back to Florida. So it was like a very like triangular itinerary. Versus my second contract when I was in Alaska, it would be Vancouver, and then you would have like a day at sea and then a bunch of Alaskan ports over the next week.
Whoa.
And then you would have one more day at sea and then hit Vancouver again. So like on a 7-day itinerary, there would be days where I didn't perform at all. I had no like character greeting.
So you're just like
duties
chilling
at all.
on a boat.
Yeah, absolutely. So just like hanging out. If there's no one to entertain on the boat, you basically don't have any work, so
was
you
that
just get off.
Frustrating, or was it more like this is just the life? And then
it really depends. I think for me personally, because I had done 2 contracts so close together, the like downtime and the reprieve was like so needed.
Interesting.
There were times obviously that like I would be like, man, like I'm kind of bored, like there's nothing really going on, but then I look around and I'm like surrounded by mountains and like there's a whale in the corner because we're in Alaska, and I'm like, okay, yeah, like life is really cool, and I'm getting jaded for no reason.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like it has to be similar to like, I've never been on tour, but I feel like it's probably the same thing of like, you know that you are kind of, you have the stability of knowing that you're in a job for a certain amount of time, but then at a certain point you're like, also, I don't know, like
I wonder,
running out the clock a little bit too.
Well,
like,
the thing that I get confused about with like the differences between cruise ships and touring, like when you're doing a tour, yes, you're traveling to all these different cities, but there's really not much change. Like every single day you get to a theater, the backstage looks exactly the same because we set it up that way. There's not so much interaction with like the consumer.
Sure.
You know, so it's very much like you are on tour and that is it. It is tour. But I feel like on a cruise ship, how many like new people are you circling in like throughout the 9-month contract?
Well, a ton. So it also depends on the turnaround of like how long your cruises are. So my first contract, I was doing only 3 and 4 day cruises. So we would get guests on Mondays and Fridays, and guests would debark on Mondays and Fridays. So you would have people leave the boat by like 9:30 and people would be coming on by 11. So like the housekeeping staff is insanely good at their jobs. Like the turnaround is crazy.
Yeah.
Like it does in some ways give Enchanted Castle. Like everything just happens.
Yeah.
And it's really, really cool. And the thing that was awesome about my first contract, because it was so much like interacting directly with guests and like that immersive element of the world, is you could really like see the work that you were doing landing on people, which I think is such a privilege, because obviously when you're in a proscenium theater, like, yeah, you can maybe sometimes catch the first few rows, but like when I have like a moment where I make a little kid laugh, like they can see my face and I can see theirs in like broad daylight, and that's really awesome. And because the cruises are so free, like the turnaround is so fast, you just see so many people. And my mom sailed on both of my contracts, and she did the math, and she was like, I feel like at least on this second contract, like at least 30,000 people have seen you perform. And I'm like, so true. And she's like, that's insane. Which is really, really cool. And also like the fact that I booked this job like 8 months out of college, and to know that like and then had a year and a half consistent of work. And I feel like as a performer, that's so rare. And that's like it's really such a privilege. And like, that's not lost at all on me. And with Disney too, like I wasn't like a devout Disney kid growing up, but I definitely like grew up on the movies and all of that stuff. And like, it's really cool to be a part of that legacy for like that next generation of kids, which is really cool.
So you said that your mom joined you for a little bit of time. I want to ask about like, what is it like to be away from your family for so long, and specifically with the nature of cruise ships, like how often are you able to use your phone? I've heard, and I need you to debunk this for me if you can.
Yeah.
Like, do you have access to your phone and Wi-Fi and like all that stuff? Or is it truly like you are out to sea and like you won't hear from me for like...
Sure. So I also think a big part of it does depend on how frequently you're actually on land too, because like if you're on land, you have service.
Sure.
But at least in my case, because I don't know about other cruise lines, but with Disney, we do have Wi-Fi. So you do have the ability to call. I tended to be kind of like precious and squirrel away my Wi-Fi for like therapy. Everyone should be in therapy. And like for calling home and like moments like that, or on the off chance that it was like my agent sent a self-tape through and I was like, okay, well, actors access on a boat. Like I'm gonna need more. I know. I'm gonna need more like Wi-Fi than whatever, because this is probably gonna run slower. So to upload all my videos and get all that done is gonna, like, that is precious time. But yeah, you have your phone. You're not like completely sequestered away from the world. But it is logistically just difficult to like, partially just to like maintain it, because there's, you know, Wi-Fi is slower, and then you're like a little bit frustrated and you're like, okay, well, let me quit out of Instagram because this isn't worth me wasting the minutes. But there is also an element of, and it feels kind of this way at like Frenchwoods too, of like, this is who is immediately in my world. My world feels very busy. And so this is where I'm going to like let myself be. And it's very easy to kind of just like forget to check back in, which like is one of the things that if I ended up going back, I would probably be more diligent about like making sure that all of my people are checked in on like at least every other day.
Interesting. It's funny. I read this book called The Defining Decade, and in it, the author says that she, one of the most interesting things that she did during her like studies was talk to kids that did the semester at sea. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
No.
It's like this ship. It's like Zach and Cody.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And my sister and I used to be like obsessed with watching these like vlogs of like this one girl that was like at semester at sea. We're like, what is it like? But she said that one of the really interesting things is that a lot of the kids loved it because they weren't so attached to their phones, because like they couldn't be. So I think that in a weird way is cruise ship like life kind of something that's more enticing to people that are just like, I just want to just like disconnect.
I will say unplugging was a true privilege, and like obviously so much insanity has happened in the world, in our country in like the past 2 years, and there's something like very, in some ways very isolating about being very far away from it and not really seeing the impact that like life is having on people. But also like when you're living, especially like working for Disney, the world is just like very lovely. And so like there is such a privilege in being able to like sort of not have to worry about a lot of stuff, and like to just be present with the people, be present with the work, be present with nature too. Because my second contract at least was like, I was surrounded by mountains and
you were in
open
Alaska?
ocean.
Was it cold?
Yes, but in the summer it's not.
Oh, okay,
bad.
okay.
Yeah, because I was like
a cold cruise. Like, how do you?
Yeah, I mean,
that's
it's kinda,
Titanic vibes.
Yeah, it is. There are icebergs. We don't hit them though. But yeah, it's really cool. It's really awesome. Because it's like 50s, 60s. You will have some days in like the high 70s, but it's just like lovely.
Yeah.
Like the only way to describe it is like truly lovely.
I want to ask you about some of like the challenges that people that might not have been on a cruise before but are thinking about it. Like, what are some challenges that have faced as a cruise ship performer?
Yeah, I would say like, I mean, a big one is just general health. I think like, especially when you're living on a boat, if you're not great about me smacking the mic. If you're not great about like getting air and touching grass, you're going to spend a lot of time in like recycled air. So it's important to make sure that like if you can be out on deck and like breathing air, if you're going to read your book or sit on your phone, you might as well do it outside. Like breathe as much fresh air as you can. Because especially I worked on a cruise line with a lot of children. And so illness is just a thing. And so being really good about like taking your vitamins and being proactive about your health. I also would say like you have to kind of be your own best friend and advocate in a lot of ways. Like if you're not feeling well, there's no reason to be a hero. Like you are on a boat. You're going to do this show probably 100 more times before you leave. If you need a day to lie down, go lie down. Like you, at least with Disney, we have understudies and covers and people generally love going on. So this idea of like, well, I have to do everything and be everywhere and always be 100%, like that's just not realistic. So being able to like, if you're somebody that knows that you struggle with like when to tap out and when to like take time for yourself, like that would be something to like mentally prepare for in advance if you're going to take a boat contract. And I would also say just logistically, and this is so sleepaway camp as well, like downsizing, like make sure you have like a few signature pants, a few signature shirts.
Like,
do not bring your life.
Need.
You're gonna buy so much crap because
I've heard
you're
this
all over.
You're traveling too.
Yeah, you're living out of a suitcase essentially. Except
Whoa.
I would say the difference between us and tours that you are in your own bed. So like I was going to sleep in the same bed every night, even though my settings were changing.
Sure.
But you would be shocked at how much you amass in your contract.
Okay, so this is a question that I just thought of, but you said that you always like sometimes you had like 3 to 4 day. What do you call it? Voyages?
Cruises.
Oh,
yeah.
Itineraries?
Yeah.
So when you would go back to like the base, would you like get off, like have a chance to reset your life? Or was it just like you're on the ship for 9 months and everybody else comes to you?
Oh, no. So I mean,
But you don't have to like reset every 3 days.
No. So you have your space and your cabin is yours, your entire contract. Like you're not relocating.
Yeah.
But yeah, so guests will get off, and then those days are what we call like port days. Or embark days for us, because it's like the embarkation date of that next group of people that's about to get on the boat. And so for us, when we were in Port Canaveral, like we would get off and go to Disney, like, or like go to Target or get Starbucks or like live our lives.
Did you like see a grocery store in those times?
Did I see a Publix? Yes, ma'am. I love a Publix. One thing about
Publix.
me is Publix non-fat yogurt. I don't know why, but that
specific one?
Specifically the like raspberry flavor. Nostalgia. I don't know, Florida people sound off, but yeah, it's great stuff. I did love a Publix.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so one of the questions that I wrote down is what, aside from like your job that you do on the cruise ship, how do you find fun things to do? And like, what is that like? Because you're not necessarily a guest on the cruise. So how do you balance like this being your entire life, but not letting work be your entire life? Sure.
That's a great question. So I was very lucky because with like Disney performers, at least we kind of get to like I call it cosplaying as a guest. You're allowed to eat in like guest areas. You're allowed to use pools. You're allowed to use the adult only areas that are just like places to lay out.
Sure.
Coffee shops you can go to. Like you get to use basically the gyms.
Nice.
Basically our only like rule is like guests always come first. Sure. So as long as there's room for you, live your life, be a star. And yeah, so like I would go to the gym a lot. I would make sure that I was like, when I was in sunny itineraries, like getting sun, because like if you're spending so much time indoors, you want to make sure you're getting that good vitamin D. But also, yeah, I picked up a lot of hobbies because I was like, it's that classic theater thing of like, I need something that I like as much as the thing that I've commodified as my passion. So I'm reading a lot. Like I got a Kindle and was like, time to invest in myself.
Interesting. Is there like a bookstore on board?
No, actually, no, there isn't. But in Port, there was one that we loved in Florida, like by the mall, had great books, but I'm a Kindle girly. So I would like, on my Port days, I would download like a series of like 8 books and be like, all right, there's no way I'm getting through this in like less than 2 weeks.
Kindles are the best. I also bought one when I went on tour because I'm like, I'm not going to carry a bunch of books. And it's like what you're saying with like downsizing and everything.
Yeah, and one thing about me is I started reading ACOTAR and I was like, there's no way I can bring all of these books home in my suitcase.
The literal like
Please,
thick
they're
books.
huge. Yeah, so yeah, my Kindle holds all. So my Kindle was a big thing. I journaled a lot. I wrote a lot. I'm a writer, so it was just great for me to be like, let me challenge myself to write one thing a day, whether it's like a little entry about like checking in with where I'm at or like poetry. But like whatever I felt compelled to do to just like have an additional outlet that didn't feel like I was like, this is the thing I love to do and this is also the thing I make money doing. And then also I got a Nintendo Switch. All the girlies were getting a Nintendo Switch.
Yeah, so you just like played video games?
Yeah, all of us played Mario Party in our cabins.
Oh, that's fun.
Or like Overcooked. Overcooked gets hostile.
I've never heard of that.
Oh my god, it's like...
Is it like Pizza Mama?
Cooking Mama vibes.
Oh, Cooking Mama.
Like not entirely. It's like, it's basically like food service. So like everyone has, I mean, you have 4 avatars that could kind of go anywhere and like fulfill recipes.
Okay.
But if you're like me and my friend group, shout out Kayla and Eli, we would designate and then scream at each other about who's not chopping onions and how to get them into the pan. So like that was fun too. Yeah.
What is like one piece of advice you would give to someone that is in musical theater right now and considering the cruise ship route?
Yeah, I would say do it. I mean, there's so many people that are, I think, afraid of it because they just don't know what it's like. And like, yeah, it is a very big leap of faith, I think, in the same way that like a tour is or anything that's not like inherently stationary is, but it is the coolest way to see the world as a young person. Like I saw Alaska before I turned 24. That's not really something that's on any like young Gen Z 20-somethings like hit list of places to go.
Sure.
But it was one of the most beautiful places I've ever been. And the fact that I got that experience and got paid to do it is sick. So definitely that side of things. And also just like you save so much money because you're not paying rent. You're pocketing all the money you make with the exception of if you have an agent paying them or like whatever gets taxed. But like, after a year and a half of working, I came back to New York and I wasn't stressed about how to live in New York. I got to like get a survival job but not be freaked out about savings. So it's really like a great way to financially, it's the most stable non-union job you could have as an actor in my experience. And like,
why do you say that? Because
like, you know that once you book your job, it's not going to like abruptly close. Like, you know that when you're on, like, it's staying there. You're there for however many months you've signed up for.
Interesting.
Your pay rate is consistent. And like in theory, if you're in good standing, it shouldn't be too hard for you to go back or get invited back. Like if I wanted to, in theory, like I could have just kept being like, hey guys, I'm interested. And then seeing if things opened up for me.
Sure.
I inevitably was like, I need to take a nap and like hang out with my cat and like be a person because I was gone for so long, so close together, like I had no time to see my family and everyone in my family is getting married and having babies, so I was like, this is the year to be home. But yeah, it's such a great experience and I think that people are so freaked out because they don't know what it's gonna look like. But it's very, very cool and very worth it, and it's a very hard thing to explain to people.
Yeah, it's super interesting to hear about it from your perspective because it does have so many similarities to tour, but weirdly it's not, and this is not the right word, easier is not the right word. It just sounds like it's a tour where it's not as like taxing on your body because of the fact that like you have the same bed every night, like little things that people like wouldn't necessarily think about. But yeah, that's super, super cool.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you now, so you're not going on any cruise ships anytime soon. But it sounds like you're still open to it. Like, it wasn't
absolutely.
like a terrible experience.
No, I had an amazing time. Honestly, the thing that is the reason I haven't gone back is just that, like,
you just want to experience life.
Yeah.
On land.
On land.
That's
fair.
fair.
For sure. And like I feel like I booked it so quickly out of school that I never really got to give myself like the good New York college try. I mean, I'm born and raised in New York,
I was gonna
so
say.
like I'm not like the Big Apple, but like to move back home and like be close to my family, it's like right now is a very interesting like age to be as well, because my little sister's graduating college and like my grandparents are getting older and all my step siblings are getting married and having babies. So it really is like a time that I'm like, this is what I want to be here. And it's the classic thing that people always say in theater of like, you miss weddings and funerals and all that stuff. So like if I cannot be in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, like now would be a good time for me not to be. But
so what are you working on right now?
Right now, I'm doing a show with the New York Gilbert and Sullivan Players. So I'm going back to my operetta girly roots.
I was going to say, if anyone doesn't know Carlyn, you have like the most beautiful operatic voice. So that makes me so happy that you're kind of going back to that.
Yeah.
And I always ask one question to all of my guests.
For sure.
The question is, what does success look like to you today, and how has that changed since being in the industry for a little bit?
Wow. Okay. Toughie. Yeah, I would say success to me today is knowing that I am doing everything that I can be doing and that inherently it's enough and it's a numbers game. Like, I think especially being where I'm at, like, I'm very at peace with the person that I am, and I think that success is also just like being cool with yourself and like proud of the work that you're doing. So as long as you're locking in and doing everything you can be doing, that's success, you know?
Yes, I love that so much. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast to talk about cruise ships. I hope that this is helpful to somebody out there that's unsure of what it's like or thinks that it's this big scary thing, because like honestly, after talking to you, I'm like, wow, that sounds kind of fun and
it's
kind
awesome.
of lovely. And I love what you said about it being kind of this thing that is a nice way to introduce yourself into the world of this musical theater, like as a career. So thank you so much, Carlyn.
Yeah, for sure.
Tell everybody where they can find you on socials.
Oh, for sure. I'm at Carlyn Jade on Instagram, and then on TikTok, I'm Carlyn like George. Like the comedian, George Carlin.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know who that is.
Yeah.
Anyways, thank you so much, Carlyn.
Yeah, of course.
We will see you all next time. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for watching my conversation with Carlyn. I hope that it was insightful. I hope that it was interesting. And I hope that you learned a little something that you may not have known about cruise ships. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to rate, review, like, subscribe, leave a comment if you are so compelled to do so. And please be sure to follow me on social media at Veronica Stern on Instagram and at That Mixed Chick NYC on TikTok. See you next time. Bye.
Yay.
That was amazing.
Slay.